Some people grow up and spend the rest of their lives not quite knowing why certain things feel so heavy, why a raised voice makes their whole body tense, why they find it almost impossible to ask for help, why they love deeply but always hold something back. The answer is almost always somewhere in childhood. Not because childhood is where everything goes wrong, but because childhood is where everything is learned. About safety, about love, about whether the world is a place that welcomes you or one you have to survive. Today we walk through every type of childhood trauma, gently, honestly, and with deep compassion. If anything in this video feels familiar, you are not alone, and you never were. Emotional, neglect, and abandonment. These two live in the same wound. One is the slow absence of love. The other is the sudden removal of it. But both teach a child the same devastating lesson: I am not worth staying for. Emotional neglect is the parent who is physically present, but emotionally gone. The child who came home bursting with something to share, and nobody asked. The child who cried, and was told to stop. The child who needed to be held, and was left alone with their feelings, instead. Abandonment is the parent who left, physically, walking out and never coming back. Or emotionally, disappearing into addiction, depression, or simply indifference, leaving the child to raise themselves in the silence. Both grow into the same adult, someone who minimizes their own pain, who loves desperately but holds back just enough, who pushes people away before they can leave first, who carries a quiet, persistent belief that they are fundamentally too difficult to stay for. They are not too much. They simply never got the one thing every child deserves: someone looking at all of them and choosing not to leave. What they need most is exactly that. Someone who stays, without conditions, without a countdown. Just, I am here, and I am not going anywhere. Physical abuse. A child's body is supposed to be safe. For a child who experiences physical abuse, that safety is taken away by the very person who was supposed to protect it. The child learns to hold two impossible things at the same time. I love this person, and this person hurts me. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. Years later, the adult flinches at sudden movements, tenses at raised voices, feels a deep instinctive distrust of the people closest to them. They are not difficult. They are not overreacting. They are a person whose nervous system learned very early that love and pain can come from the same hands. Emotional abuse. Words were the weapon, and unlike bruises, they never fully fade. Being told you are stupid, worthless, a burden, that nobody will ever love you. A child cannot fact-check these things. They absorb them completely, and those words become the voice inside their head, following them into every relationship, every opportunity, every moment of self-doubt for the rest of their life. What they carry into adulthood is not just the memory of the words. It is the belief that the words were true. What they need most is not just to be told they are worthy. They need years of consistent, patient, unconditional evidence that they are. Sexual abuse. This is the one most people find hardest to talk about. So let us talk about it. The child almost never understands what is happening. They are told it is a secret, that nobody would believe them, and so most of them don't tell. They carry it alone, sometimes for decades. The shame does not belong to the child. It never did. But shame is patient, and it settles into the body of a child and grows with them, whispering that they are damaged, that what happened reflects something about who they are. It does not. It never did. What they need to hear, clearly, and without hesitation: this was not your fault. Not one single part of it. And you do not have to carry this alone anymore. If any of this is resonating with something you have carried for a long time, drop a comment below. Tell us which one you recognize. You are not alone, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Share this video, drop a like, let's keep going. Witnessing domestic violence. They were never hit. Nobody ever laid a hand on them. But they heard everything. They lay in bed listening to sounds no child should ever hear, and learned to make themselves as small and invisible as possible, and wait for it to be over. The child living inside a home, full of violence and fear, responds to that environment the exact same way they would respond to direct danger. Because it is. They grow into adults who cannot tolerate raised voices, who freeze when people argue, who carry an exhausting responsibility for managing everyone else's emotions, because once, keeping everyone calm felt like it might keep everyone safe. What they need to hear: it was not your job to fix it. It was never your job. You were just a child. Bullying. This one gets minimized more than almost any other. Kids are cruel. It builds character. Just ignore them. But the child being excluded, mocked and humiliated every single day does not experience it as character building. They experience it as a daily confirmation of their worst fear, that there is something fundamentally wrong with them. Something that makes them unworthy of belonging. The adult who was bullied still carries that voice somewhere inside. In the hesitation before they speak in a group. In the way they brace for ridicule when they try something new. In the quiet disbelief when someone genuinely likes them. What they need most To finally believe, you were never the problem. You were always worth belonging. Loss and grief. Some children meet death far too early, and they are handed a grief that is enormous, in a world that often does not know what to do with a grieving child. Adults try to protect them from the pain. They move on too quickly, and the child is left to process something immense, alone, without the language or the support to do it. They carry it forward, sometimes without knowing that is what it is. A sadness without a clear source, an ache that arrives unexpectedly at birthdays and milestones. A longing for someone they never got enough time with. What they need most is permission. Permission to still grieve, to still say, I miss them. Even now. Even after all this time. Medical trauma. This is perhaps the least talked about childhood trauma of all. The child who spent significant time in hospitals. Who endured painful procedures. Who was separated from their parents in frightening environments and told to be brave. Who had things done to their body that they did not understand and could not consent to. Nobody meant to cause harm, but a child's nervous system does not distinguish between intended harm and unintended harm. It only registers, this was frightening. This was painful, and I was alone in it. Medical trauma creates adults who dread doctors' visits with a fear that feels disproportionate. Who feel an old, deep panic at the smell of hospitals or the sight of needles. They are not weak, they are not dramatic. Their body is remembering something their mind has tried very hard to move past. What they need most is gentleness, from the people around them and from themselves. Because healing a body that once had to be so brave deserves patience, not judgment. Childhood trauma does not always arrive with a dramatic story. Sometimes it is the slow accumulation of small things, the feelings never validated, the needs never met, the love that was never quite unconditional enough. But every type we talked about today leaves a mark. And every single one deserves to be taken seriously, not minimized, not dismissed, not measured against someone else's suffering. You do not have to have had the worst childhood to have been hurt by yours. Drop a comment and tell us, which of these did you recognize? Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to feel seen today. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a like, and subscribe to the channel for more breakdowns like this every week. I'll see you in the next one.